Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video I'm bringing you a brand new Road to 100 mil video. So in this series basically I showcase all your recommendations for making money in Gran Turismo 7, and basically if it's any good I'll obviously try your method out and do a full feature video on basically how to do it. As you can see here, this is one that's been around, I'd say about a month or so. That it's kind of been well known, but I've kind of held off making it purely because I just absolutely did not like the look of this car, and I don't think I was quite ready just to go back to Tokyo just yet. Obviously after the Tomahawk got patched, I've never really touched that event since. So as you can see here, the car we're using is a bit of a weird one. It's the Aston Martin DP100 Vision Gran Turismo. So yeah, bit of a weird looking car, but actually a very, good car, very good performance. It costs $1 million from the Aston Martin dealer, but you're going to be earning that money back within, what, 2 races, and make profit on it. So yeah, no problem in that department. Obviously $1 million isn't that much with the economy we have in Gran Turismo currently. So this is a setup you're going to need. Make sure you've got your sports hard tyres on, not racing. Make sure it's the sports ones. These parts here you can't really touch anyway. The only other thing we're going to touch is on the ECU. Put the output adjustment to 97, ballast 200, minus 50 for the balance position. Make sure you've got a power restrictor for set at 70, and that is going to be it. You're pretty much all good to go with just that setup, so not too much fiddling about needed really. So as mentioned, it's going to be a Tokyo event. So you're going to go into Asia, and then you're going to go over to Tokyo Expressway, and you're going to be doing the World Touring Car 600. Kind of good to be back here. I haven't really returned since the Tomahawk glitch got patched. So this is where this car really excels. You're actually not going to need to touch your fuel mix. You just leave it at 1 for the whole race. At first it may look like it's going to drink fuel, or it doesn't have enough fuel to get through. Trust me, it does. So the only weakness really of this car is the straight line speed. It's mainly only against one car. It's the GTR, which is very, very fast in a straight line. All the other ones are pretty much good to go. So the strategy here, it's a little bit different, but basically short shift as much as possible. Remain in them high gears. The only awkward lap you're going to have is the first lap, obviously when it's more wet. It's a lot more awkward to kind of drive the car, but I guess within about 3 laps the car pretty much just comes into its own and really does start excelling, and it kind of just shows you how good it is to take on this event. So obviously we're money grinding, so just make sure you've got difficulty set to easy. You're not really going to have a problem. At first you may feel like you kind of not going to do too well with this method, but trust me, like I said, around about lap 3 this car will come into its own. As you can see, the fuel laps remaining has gone up. Like I said, short shift, so basically you're going to shift pretty much as soon as you start seeing the bar go up. There's a weird thing about this kind of build, and I don't know if it's just this car in general, because I've actually never tested it in its default setup just yet, but basically you have to shift really short, or else the car doesn't seem to want to keep going. So you are saving fuel, and the car will pick up pace, especially down the straights. It's good for about 180 odd miles an hour, I believe about 187, so it's not actually really lacking on the straights. It's pretty much only the GTR that can kind of keep up with you, and most of the time it's only because it will run in your slipstream, but that's only going to be early on in the event. So basically throughout this whole event you're not going to be pitting at all. You don't have to worry about the tyres, you don't have to worry about the fuel. Another thing to note with this car as well, especially obviously when the rain stops, is the tyres just do not seem to wear off, and even when it looks like they should start taking effect, basically the car is just an absolute dream to drive. It really doesn't seem to hamper the performance of the car. It seems to basically stay stable, stay very good through the corners pretty much throughout. No matter how much abuse you kind of give it. So this was a penalty free run, but basically how the penalty system works is you can basically keep your clean race bonus no matter what, even if you're lapping them, overtaking them and you hit them, or you get a penalty through hitting the barrier, which you do on this event. It doesn't matter. The only time that will affect you is if a yellow flag is put out and you overtake under a yellow flag. That is the only time you'll lose your clean race bonus. I have never once lost my clean race bonus here, and I've never once seen a yellow flag put out at this track either. So this is on lap 3, and this is where the car really starts to come into its own. The track's drying up and the lap times are going to start tumbling down much quicker now. We've got ourselves up into second, you know, absolutely breezing. You can see, look at the difference there. I mean, within one lap, as this track keeps drying out, honestly, the times will tumble down. I believe my best was like a 2:10. So as you can see, there's still another 7 seconds to shave off lap 2 there. So yeah, very, very good car overall, very balanced, very stable, decent top speed, and just like I said, make sure you're short shifting. This way, obviously, you're saving fuel, and it also gives you just a bit of extra power. And more go down the straights. I believe it has 7 or 8 gears, a little bit weird, but yeah, just like I said, make sure you're short shifting. You don't even need to let the revs come up. Sometimes the power will just keep going, even if you flick up to a higher gear. So lap 5 here, nobody else has pitted just yet, but we're basically just going to, you know, track down the lead, and this is where the pace of this car really comes into, you know, into its own. As you can see, we've knocked 2 seconds off this lap already. As we're just basically closing the leader down, no problem now. Absolute massive pace difference when this track dries up. Like I said, this car is just an absolute beast, and to be fair, the more I look at it and the more I used it, the better looking this car became. Obviously, you know, I've got the Aston Martin Formula 1 livery on the car, so yeah, pretty awesome, you know, livery. That's one thing to note, is there's not many, you know, very good livery options available. You know, that's kind of like a selling point for me with some of the cars, is, you know, what can I put on them. So the AI is going to take their first pit stop at the end of lap 5 onto lap 6. Obviously we're not pitting, but this is the point in the race where you're really going to start pulling that gap out. As you can see, kept the fuel at mix 1, and it may look like we've only got 7 laps of fuel left, but you know, it's going to be quite easy to manage that. We're into the 2:11 now, and this is where the, you know, a few more cars are going to start boxing in. And you're basically just going to see that gap get bigger and bigger. Some of the cars do pit twice, some of them I believe maybe only once. As you can see, a bunch on lap 8. This is where the majority will take, you know, the one stoppers will just kind of take their pit stop, and you'll pretty much never see them again. Also, just kind of note around this time, this is where the tyres may, well, start feeling like they're kind of wearing away. You don't need to worry about them too much, because even though, you know, you're going to start losing a bit of that overall performance, it's still very controllable. As you can see here, we're going to kind of like twitch the back end out a bit, but it's going to be easy to just kind of catch it and just keep going. If you want advice on how to, you know, keep short shifting the car and where your gear changes should be, just obviously watch the bar at the bottom, and you'll just see how early we are. As you can see, we're kind of sliding through that corner, and the car's just staying very stable, very controllable. It never ever gets to the point where it just feels undrivable. Some of the cars that you do, you know, take out get to the point where the tyres start to wear, and then the car just feels like, you know, absolute trash, and you just feel like you can't keep it on the road. And sometimes that'll obviously force you to pit. Luckily, no tyre wear issues even when they start degrading, and then obviously no fuel issues either. As we come onto the final lap, we're obviously going to start lapping some of the AI. It's just about taking your time, really. If you do start lapping them even earlier and you have a quicker run than me, just don't get caught behind them. Just kind of time your overtake. Obviously, every second counts when it comes to money grinding, especially over time. At this point of the race, we're still penalty free. Nothing really bad's happened. The car's still fully controllable, even though it looks like the tyres are getting around to halfway life. Yeah, you don't really need to worry about them at all. Like I said, really, really good under brakes this car is, and like I said, the track's is pretty much its driest point. So you know, the car's, you know, stable. There's going to be none of them horrible little puddles just scattered about that kind of like jolt your car. As you can see, we hit the barrier there, so a little mistake on my point, but you know, we've avoided the penalty. But that is another thing to note. Early on, there may still be some like quite deep standing water. If you do hit it, it, you know, does have a tendency to kind of jolt your car into the barrier. So just kind of keep an eye on the road surface as well, and obviously you can see where the dry line is on this track. So obviously just keep to that. It's basically common sense at this point, but it is kind of different driving it when you're not doing it in a Tomahawk. So yeah, for those of you that don't really go to this event anymore, this is your chance to basically go back to this event and, you know, kind of make a little bit more than the Sardinia event in pretty much roughly the same time, maybe a little bit more. So we're going to cross the line here, nice first place finish, and then we're going to kind of look into the overall time. and kind of just weigh it up against some of the other methods. Obviously this method recommended pretty much by everyone. So overall a 26 minute 55.696, so actually pretty good. I do feel like I could go much quicker, especially now I'm much more used to the car. After you've done one run, your times just start tumbling down. Overall it's 825k within, like I said, around about 26 minutes, so not bad at all. Decent money. It's an extra, what, over 100 grand compared to the Sardinia event. So another money method covered that was recommended by you guys. Would I recommend, actually going and doing this and kind of putting that million out to get this car? 100%, to be honest. I feel like this may be my go-to. It's kind of nice to have an excuse to kind of return to the Tokyo 600 event. Obviously the last time the majority of us probably ran that was when the Tomahawk glitch was still in the game. Obviously that's long gone at this point, and this is pretty much your next best option for that event. Very controllable car, no complaints there, and even though it's one weird looking thing, it does kind of grow on you, over time. So I'd 100% recommend doing this for, money. I've also heard that it works well for Le Mans, so I'm going to look into that one pretty soon. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.